युट्यूब सुरू झालं ना अजय.
हम्म.
आणि ग्रुप
चला
वर लिंक
स्टार्ट.
युट्यूब. हा,
स्टार्ट.
मग आम्ही म्यूट होतो आधी. यस संतोष सर. स्टार्ट.
स्टार्ट.
यस.
प्रश्न ऍड केले का सगळ्या?
Okay. A very good evening to one and all present here for the second day of this workshop on exploring statistical techniques in research. As you all know that research has been playing a very key role in the academic profession, and librarians are not exception to it. You all know that librarians have to do some, research for their cash purpose or their betterment and placement. So keeping in mind those kind of important issues, we have conducted this 2 days program for the library professionals. So on 11th January 2024, we started with this program. And for the program, we have got a very wonderful and prominent resource person, Dr. Pradnya Vakpanjan. Madam is a professor at University of SNDT University, Women's University, and she has a huge teaching experience. She has been associated with the university for 25 years. Her academic qualification is also excellent. She has done her B.Ed, then PG diploma, PhD in education. She has done M.Ed and MSc also. She has been associated with the university and she has been teaching over there for so many years. Madam has conducted so many courses. Madam has conducted seminars and workshops, national level and international level. Okay, she has been resource person to various, national and international programs also, and she has been here for the second day also. So I welcome you, ma'am, on this special occasion for the second day of your lecture. Now,
thank you, sir.
Yeah. Now I would like to just tell the participants that yesterday we had, covered some points. In that, the statistical tools, which are very, important, various tools are there for, testing your hypotheses and objectives and whatnot. So yesterday, madam had covered, so many topics related to research, hypotheses, then the tools, okay, statistical tools, and the question type of questions and such kind of the topics. Okay, so today she is going to cover the statistical tools, and we'll have some experience to understand, and in future when we do the research, that time we can practice them or use them in our day-to-day research programs also. So now, without wasting much of your time, I would invite our resource person, Dr. Prajna ma'am, to take over the session and start your presentation. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for so much, so many points that you have elaborated. I don't know whether I deserve it or no. Anyway, but thank you so much. And I'm very happy that the association is really, like taking a lead to make ourselves professionals. And I believe that the inputs are very, very necessary once we are in the profession. The things are changing, and therefore, as a professional, we need to grow ourselves. And I really congratulate association to take up these kind of initiatives. And I'm sure this kind of initiative will definitely benefit all of us. So library science, as I said, that it is the part of everybody's life. The way we say that the economics is a part, so library science is a very, very integral part of everybody's life, and the professional it is furthermore. So other day we just talked about few of the very basic concepts. Since I had one thing in mind, that we also have some PhD scholars who are probably very recently joined, and other teachers are there who help them, but to make them more uh, uh, bring more clarity among their own understanding about the basics of the research. So I was talking about very, very basic things about it. Now today we will just go further, and we already talked about what kind of research questions we deal with. And as I discussed about the kind of questions that I observed in your library science field, it is more descriptive type of questions that we have. And we also have some of the questions that leads to the evaluation. Now, besides this, yes, other day we discussed at the end where we talked about some of the topics like the awareness about the resources that library has, or OER awareness, then the perceptions about the library science field, perceptions about. So these kind of researches, when we actually take up, we actually go for, like where we are using some statistic kind of a thing. Now, other day also I mentioned that our statistics start right at the point when we go for the validation of data. So for the data validation, when we proceed for the data validation, as I discussed, that if it is a construct validity and the content validity, we actually look for the percentage of the experts that are agreeing on. After that, when we go for the pilot study, where you want to establish the reliability. Now, to establish the reliability of the tool, there are various methods, but few methods that we have been using, it is the test-retest method. Now, what do we do in the test-retest method? That we calculate the correlation, that we will take it once we talk about the correlation. So our statistics and use of statistics starts when we start using our, when we start working on our reliability of our tool. So in the reliability, the various methods are being, various statistical techniques are being used. I will share the Garrett soft copy also with Bansod sir, so that it can be reached to all of you. So the Garrett is it's like a it's a Bible in statistics. So though it's a very old book, but with the the clarity the Garrett gives us, that is something which is very, very important. Now, other day we talked about the descriptive analysis. And now today we are going to talk about the inferential analysis. So the descriptive analysis that describes the characteristics of population that we say. So if I am collecting data from say 515, now I will have to generalize it to the population whatever I have. So maybe I have a 1 lakh, 1.5 lakh population, and I have taken the sample in a very systematic way. Now, when I'm talking about the characteristics of a sample, I calculate actually on the sample, but I describe the characteristics of population. Now we will start with that, and then we will proceed further for the inferential analysis. Now, generally, as we say that our first objectives in many of the studies, you probably might have seen that we say that to study the OER. I'm sorry, but I'm just taking other days example so that things should be bit connective to everyone. So say for example, suppose we have the objective to study the awareness of OER among professionals. Now we have taken the sample from different professionals. Now we may have the teachers. Now again in teachers, you can have the various like a humanities teacher, science and technology teacher, commerce and management teacher. So broad way you can have. So within the professional, probably you may have the groups. Now, if I have to describe that whether this awareness about OER, it is very high or it is moderate or it is low, because generally our first objective is to study the awareness about OER among teachers. Now I'm just taking university teachers. Now, if I have to portray this, because I will be talking about that all the teachers who are there in that university, or if somebody has decided to take up for the entire Maharashtra, then the person will have to take the teachers from all the university. Now, so even if you are taking for one university, you have so much of a sample. So university like Mumbai University is a big university. And if you want to take the number of teachers from this kind of big university, then you have a huge data. So maybe we have around 6,000-7,000 teachers. Now we are going to collect data. Now the calculation that I am doing, especially the mean. The mean value is going to give me the central tendency of that population. So I have collected data maybe from 300 or 400 teachers of the university, but I'm talking about the 7,000 students of the university. Now, that is first. So when you generally it is observed that the people just write this objective because you do not have hypothesis for that. But then this objective is not tested anywhere. Please don't do that. So what can we do? So the thing is that what we do is that we calculate mean, median, mode, we write it. But if you want to come out with some inference, what this is indicating, so in that case, you have to make the 3 groups. Now, how can I make the 3 groups? So maybe we can go for the calculation of percentile. Okay, so that is one way of making the groups, that is who are having the low awareness of OER, moderate awareness of OER, and the high awareness of OER. If I'm doing this, so what I calculate percentile, that is P25 I calculate. So score that is lower than the score of P25 will be my people who have the low awareness. Then between P25 and P50, so then I calculate the P50. So those who are in between that, they are having the moderate. And then after P75, P50 to P75, then I consider at bit high. So likewise, one way is grouping is, you make use of percentile. Another way of doing it that you have the mean scores. Okay, so OER awareness scores you have, now you have the mean value. Now what you can do is that you can go from -1 sigma, that is you also have the standard deviation with you. So you go for -1 sigma and +1 sigma. So suppose your mean value, I'm just taking very randomly, suppose our mean value is, say for example 26, and your standard deviation value is something like 3.5. So then I will first minus it. So 26 minus 3.5. So what figure I will get? So that is the figure that I will take it as the, one side, and then another side is 26 plus 3.5. Okay. So once one side I am minusing it, so it is m plus sigma and m minus sigma. So 1 m plus 1 sigma. So if my SD is 3.5, so first I will add 26 plus 3.5. Okay. Now if my figure is coming 26 plus 3.5, it is 29.5.
Excuse me, ma'am. I
Yeah.
think the screen has stopped. So we are seeing only the comparative table. If you have changed the slide, you are not able to see.
No, I'm just giving the example. Now is it changing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So now suppose you have the mean value as 26 and you have your SD value, that we will just see how we are going to calculate. Now, when we are actually dealing with the descriptive analysis, somewhere we are not doing this aspect, and that has to be reflected. Then only you will get to know either if I have this 26 as my mean value and 3.5 as my standard deviation value. So first thing that I do is that 26 minus 3.5, so I'm getting 22.5. And another I'm getting is the 26 plus 3.5. So I'm getting 30.5. Now, this is my, a way of making my groups. Now, on this basis, I can talk about how many are there who are in this moderate level. Okay, so 22.5 and between 30.5. So this is my normal. Now, above 30.5 are my higher one and below 22.5 are my lower one. Okay, so we can check our first objective like that. So you can make use of the graphs also for that. So this is how you actually make use of your mean and plus 1 sigma and minus 1 sigma, plus 2 sigma and minus 2 sigma. So as many groups you want to form and then keep your data into those compartments. So descriptive analysis will help you. Now this descriptive analysis clearly indicates that, okay, these many people or individuals are in a higher or in a lower group. Now, after we calculate these measures of central tendencies and variabilities, the first thing that we have to think about that what inferential analysis we have to make use of. Now, it's very peculiar that when we are using the inferential analysis, so what we have done, basically we have the population with us. Now, from this population, we have selected the representative sample. Now, I do my descriptive analysis on this sample. And now whatever findings I'm getting, I'm applying it to population. So once I'm confirmed with my descriptive analysis, then I make use of my inferential analysis. So we have the different kinds of a test for this inferential analysis. So the inferential analysis is again extremely important part. But before that, please make sure you have completed your descriptive analysis, because sometimes it may happen that one of the group probably have the data that is skewed. And if the data is skewed, then we cannot make use of the parametric test. Okay. So we can generalize the findings to the population that we have done on the sample. That is the first use of inferential analysis. The second use is you compare that attribute, whichever variable you have taken, you are comparing that. So whether the awareness of OER is more among the men or the women, so then I'm comparing. Similarly, if I want to compare which faculty teachers are more aware about the OER, so again I can do that. So whatever the attribute we are taking, we compare that. Then in case of experimental study, we go for the establishing the cause-effect relationship. In case of the correlational study, we further go for the regression analysis and we talk about the association between the variables and which is very strong, and we predict certain things. So that if, say, for example, we are talking about for the students' achievement, it's their motivation, their interest, their attitude towards subjects. All variables or all factors are responsible, no doubt about it. But which is the one which has a strong association, then I need to work on that. So probably it's more than study habit, it is the internal motivation. So as a teacher, I get that feedback. Yes, this is the aspect that I need to focus on. So sometimes you also go for those kind of study. Also, as we discussed, when we go for the policy formulation, the data that is come up through your inferential analysis plays extremely important role. Now, it may be, like your comparison among the faculties or among the different professionals, or their kind of, the government wants some specific kind of a data. So the inferences are drawn, and these inferences further can be influencing factor for the policy formation. So therefore, the inferential analysis, when we go for, this is the statistical technique that are used to bring some inferences that whatever data we have with us. If your sample is very representative, it is done very systematically, then automatically it is expected that your inferences that you are covering, that will have a more implication, or it will have more reliability. So therefore, even your sampling should be extremely good. Now, I will just talk about that when we can use the parametric test. So we have two types of tests in inferential analysis. One is our parametric test, and the second is our non-parametric test. Now, when to use the parametric test, that is the conditions your data must follow. The first condition that our data must follow is that when our sample is distributed normally. See, this is where your descriptive analysis is important. The second, when our data, or the tool that you have used, our tool is, in an interval scale form. Other day, we talked about the types of tool. Now, the third, the observations must be independent. So when we go for the self-reporting rating scale, the observations are independent. Or sometimes if somebody used a questionnaire and the questionnaire is quantified, but individual has given you the responses, you have the numbers with you, then you can proceed with that. When your population have nearly the same variance, so when you have many groups and the variance is not the extreme one, and the next, which is again the sample size is more than 30. Now, from where this sample size more than 30 comes, it is all the statistician they have given us. So I do not have answer for this. So if any one of you have the answer for that, please let me know. So the sample not less than 30. So even if you are going for the experimental researches, you are conducting the experiment, make sure that your sample is more than 30. However, if your sample is less than 30, then there are different tests the Garrett book is indicating, and we can make use of those tests. So if our sample is large, our data, what we have collected, is in an interval scale form, independent observations are there, we have calculated the descriptive analysis, measures of central tendency, variability, and dispersion, and we are finding that yes, our data is following not exactly the normal distribution, but still it is a near normal. Now we have to take the decision that which parametric test I have to make use of. Now, to make this decision, which is very important decision of any research, again we have to look back to our objectives. So our objectives, our hypothesis, and our test, they go hand in hand. Okay. Now, we will just look into the another day what the examples we were discussing. So if we are talking about the awareness about the OER, now the research objective is to compare the awareness about OER of teachers belonging to different faculties. If this is my objective, then my hypothesis will be null hypothesis. Now, why null hypothesis? Because the null hypothesis help us to keep ourselves very neutral. See, generally what people they have in mind when we put the null hypothesis, we write there is no significant difference in the awareness about OER of the faculty belonging of the faculty members among the different faculty members. Now, this no is not, should not be considered as the negative way. The null hypothesis is very simple in a sense that it makes us neutral. Now, we are researcher. Whatever the research findings will be coming, that we have to accept. Therefore, we go for the null hypothesis. So, if I'm stating the null hypothesis that there is no significant difference in the OER awareness on the basis of different faculties, then I am actually neutral. Or if I'm talking about there is no significant difference in the OER awareness of men and women. Now, here the null hypothesis keeps me neutral. Now, what it means? It means that as a researcher, you are keeping all your options open. Now, very simple example. Suppose you are in one square. Okay. एक चौराहे पे आप खड़े हो. Now you have the, on one road you are standing. Now you have 3 roads in front of you. Either you can go straight, or you can take right, or you can take left, right? Now this is precisely a null hypothesis state as that as a researcher you are neutral. Now when I'm testing the hypothesis, my hypothesis testing will give me some result, and that result will help me whether there is no significant difference in the awareness about OER of men and women teachers. So I'm going straight. कुछ difference नहीं है. या क्या हो सकता है? Women teachers, they have better awareness. या women teacher, they have less awareness. So 2 options. So whether I have to take right or I have to take left. This I will get once I test my hypothesis. So please don't consider that the null hypothesis is something that tells me there is no significant difference. So no, it's not. It's basically the statistical language, and therefore it tells us to be neutral. Another important aspect of this null hypothesis is that as a researcher, we keep ourselves safe. So the moment I'm keeping the null hypothesis, I am open. I am objective. Whatever the inferences coming through my research, I'm ready to accept it. That's why we go for the null hypothesis. Okay. We go for the directional hypothesis when we go for the experimental research. Now, how do they argue it? They argue it as, which is also acceptable. Their argumentation is this, that if we have to change some situation, and for that we are putting in efforts, we are developing some program. So why should I go for null? I will go for the directional, that the particular program, say for example, the stress reduction program will reduce the stress. So they go for that. Now, if you do not get that result, then what? So that is the question. So nowadays in the field, people, they keep the alternative hypothesis as well as the null hypothesis. So if my alternate hypothesis is not accepted, then I go for the null hypothesis, and then from that I make my conclusions. Okay, so that's why our null hypothesis is surely the statistical hypothesis, And if we want to go for the statistics, we must have the null hypothesis. Okay. Now, non-parametric tests are the test when your data is not following normal distribution. Your data is in the ordinal forms when our sample size is less, and you are using the nominal and ordinal scales to measure the data. Okay, so the non-parametric test, when you are having your data in a frequency form, so that time we go for the non-parametric test. But the parametric tests are the strong tests. They are very, very strong. And therefore, when you have to generalize the result, it's always that you go for the parametric test. Now, few terms, maybe, many of you I know may be aware of this, but we'll just quickly glance through it. And then we will talk about the tests that we can use. Okay, the first is the degrees of freedom. Now, whenever you calculate your t value, you calculate your f value, you calculate your ANCOVA, whatever the calculations you are doing, after that you have to enter in the tables that are given by the experts. The tables that are given by the experts are used by us, and for that, the first thing that we require, it is degrees of freedom. Okay. Later, when we are rejecting our hypothesis, so at what level we have to reject? When we are accepting, there is no level of acceptance. But for the rejection, we go for the level of significance. Okay. Now, standard error of mean and standard error of SD are nothing but like a standard error of mean. Now, say we discuss that, okay, we will be collecting the sample, say for example, 550, and I'm going to generalize it for maybe 1.5 lakh. Now, if from this 1.5 lakh of population, if I take out the sample from the same population, I will not get the exact mean. So maybe when I have collected the sample, so I get a mean of, like a 26. If from the same population with the same tool, Jyoti madam also has collected, so she is getting 28 as her mean. If, Bhupendra sir also wants to, like just take the another set of sample from the same population, use the same tool, he may get, like a 24.5 as the mean. Now, this difference in the mean that you are getting, because what is happening, we are calculating the mean on a sample and we are going to apply it to population, right? So when we are applying it to population, that time we have to consider that you are calculating the standard error of mean. So the standard error of mean means if you are taking the sample from the same population and when you are testing it, you will not get the exact mean. And there will be some error. And that is known as the standard error of mean. Similarly, the same is for the standard deviation. So the standard deviation of these different sample pockets will be not exactly the same. And that's why we calculate the standard error of mean and standard error of standard deviation. Okay. And then we, in descriptive analysis, we make our description that yes, the range of this mean will be from this to this at 0.99 level and this to this at 0.95 level. The same thing we describe to also the SD. Now, so yeah. So now we will just go for the degrees of freedom. As I said, we want first the degrees of freedom, then we have to look into our level of significance. Now, these are some of the important terms. So the degrees of freedom, it is the freedom that you enjoy as a researcher. And why these degrees of freedom? It vary as per your type of study. So how many variables you actually deal with. Now we'll just have a very small exercise. Okay. Now, suppose my first question to you is that give me any 5 numbers. What will be that? Yeah. You can just unmute and tell me. Yes.
10 plus 15 is
Okay.
25. Then
10 plus 15 per 5 plus 1 plus whatever, right?
yeah,
Any 5 number, because I haven't asked any condition for it. Now let us move on to the next one. Give any 5 numbers whose sum is 25. Yes, go ahead, please.
4, 6, 7, 3, 5.
Okay. Now what happens when you give first 4 numbers?
It will become 20.
So what happens when you put your fifth number?
It will add 5 more.
Right? Correct. So in order to make it 25, you had one condition and therefore it was a binding on you to say it's a 5 number, right?
Right.
Correct. Now this is what the degrees of freedom. Now go to the next one. Give any 5 numbers and out of this 5, one number should be 3 and sum of all these 5 numbers should be 25. Yes.
Hello?
Yeah.
3, 1,
Hmm.
10, 11. 3, 3, 1, 10, 11, madam.
Correct.
3,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, so what happens? You have two conditions. One must be 3. So you put 3 first, right? In between, then 3, you just gave 3 numbers. Now again, there was some binding on you to make it 25. Right? So
Yes, yes,
here,
madam.
correct. So we put 2 conditions here, right? Now, when we go for the degrees of freedom, it depends on how many groups we are dealing with. So the calculation of degrees of freedom for ANOVA is different. For chi-square, it is different. For T, it is different. For correlation, it is different. Now, generally, you see that it is, we do n-2, but it is not applicable everywhere. Now, why it is n-2 when we go for a T? Now, T test is used when you have to compare between 2 groups. So, आपका variable is 1 and your groups are 2. So if you want to compare the OER awareness between men and women teachers, so your groups are men teachers and the women teachers, and your variable is awareness about OER. Now in this, you have one mean value for the women teachers and one mean value for the men teachers, correct? Okay. Now, because you have one mean value, so therefore you lose 1 degree of freedom for each group. And that's how it becomes n-2. So if your sample is 515, you just do n-2, that is 515 minus 2. Okay. Now, if you go for the ANOVA and if you further go for the 2-way ANOVA and 3-way ANOVA, your calculations of these degrees of freedom, they differ because your formulas, they keep on changing. An ANOVA is used when you want to compare 3 or more than 3 groups. So if you want to compare the different professionals, so you have teachers, you have engineers, you have doctors, you have librarians, you have nurses, you may have some IT people. So the different professionals, so you have 6-7 groups and you want to compare their OER awareness. Now at a time, you can process this data using the technique that is known as the analysis of variance. Okay. Now, this PPT I'll share with Bansod sir so that they can circulate amongst all of you. Now, as we say that these are, as I was discussing about the degrees of freedom calculation, the different formulas we make use of. Okay. Yeah. Any question pertaining to this? Should I move ahead? Okay. So the first, that is, you calculate degrees of freedom. So once you apply your t-test, whatever the figures you are getting, you have to compare your obtained figure with the table figure. Now, tabulated figures are given by the statistician. Now, the first step that I will have to do is that I will have to first calculate my n minus 2. After I calculate my n minus 2, then I enter in the table. Okay. I'm sure all of you must have seen the tables. Now we will just talk about the level of significance and level of confidence and how they are related, because this is again important concept to understand. Now, again, we will just go very hypothetical. I will start only with the t-test because it is easy to understand the t-test. T-test is used when you have two groups and one variable. So if I want to compare the OER awareness of men and women teachers, I make use of t-test. Now, my t value that I'm getting is, say, for example, 4.59. Okay, I'm just getting. Now, this value 4.59 is known as the obtained t, the one researcher gets. Now, I have to check it with the tabulated t. Now, for that, I have table. Okay, and in the table, I first calculate. Now, before entering the table, I have done n minus 2. My sample is 550. So, now I have to enter in the degrees of freedom and I check out that where is the 513 is given. I'll just check if my tab is open. Okay. Now, I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, here it is my T table. Now, I'm entering in the T table. So first I did is my degrees of freedom. So every table has this. Now, it's written that it is a T distribution. Again, here they have given, like for two-tailed test and one-tailed test. So we are going to deal with the two-tailed test. So we are going to look into these values. Now, degrees of freedom is, after doing that, I get 513. Now that 513, I'm just comparing with my obtained value. Now, I get this 1.96 and 2.58. Now, these obtained values are at different levels. So, those levels, when I am defining, those are the one that is known as my level of significance. So, when I'm going for my level of significance, I am making use of two-tailed level of significance. I'm not going for the one-tailed test. Okay, I'm talking about the two-tailed test. Now we make use of two levels. One is 0.01 level and another is 0.05 level. So we deal with two levels. Now, when I'm dealing with the 0.05 level, as I said, what values we get is that 1.96 at 0.05 level and 2.58 at 0.01 level. These were at the tabulated. Our obtained value is 4.59. Now compare your value, that is 4.59, with the value which is given at 0.01 level. The 0.01 level indicates that if I repeat the study 100 times in the same population, 99 times I'm going to get the same result. It's only one time there is a probability that I will get the different results. Similarly, at the first level, if I'm checking my value, that 4.59 is more than my table value at 0.01 level. So what I will do is that I will reject the null hypothesis at 0.01 level. This is the level. Okay. And if my value of t is, say, for example, 2.01. Now 2.01 is less than the tabulated value at 0.01. So therefore, what I enter in 0.05. Now in 0.05, the table value is 1.96. Now my value is 2.01, which is more than the tabulated value. So then in that case, what I do is that I reject my null hypothesis at 0.05 level. So my rejection is either at 0.01 level or it can be at 0.05 level. Now when I'm rejecting null hypothesis at 0.01 level, then my level of confidence is 0.01. Okay. So I have the 99% confidence in rejecting the hypothesis. If the value that I am getting for the t is less than the tabulated value at 0.01, but it is more than this value, then I am rejecting the hypothesis at 0.05 level and my level of confidence is 95%. So if our hypothesis gets rejected at 0.01 level, our results become more reliable. Now, in case of psychology, people, they also lower down their limit, and then they check their hypothesis at the value 0.10. It means if one repeats a study 100 times in a population, it's only 90 times they are going to get the same result. It is a probability that 10 times they will get the different results. Now, generally, we do not make use of this. It's counseling and the psychology people, because they are dealing with human beings. So therefore, they go for this. So the moment you are rejecting your hypothesis at 0.01 level, your level of confidence is highest. When it is 0.05, it is bit low. And as I said, we do not consider this. So the level of significance talks about the rejection of hypothesis, and parallelly, we also talk about the level of confidence. And therefore, you see that the people, they write that the obtained value is greater than the tabulated value. Therefore, the null hypothesis is rejected at 0.01 level. It means the confidence level is 99%. Okay. Now, I think we will just move ahead with this. I will not The formulas are there. We will not right now go into these formulas. We will now go on our Excel sheet and we will talk about how can we proceed further. Okay. This slide has few calculations. So I'll just share it afterwards so that the sir can share it to you. Okay, so we will just take the example and then we will move ahead with it. Okay, now we'll just take simple example from your field and then we will just talk about it. So we will be talking about the t-test. Then we will be talking about the ANOVA and then we will be talking about the factorial design, or it is a 2x2 or two-way ANOVA. It can be, you can have the factorial design 2x2 or 2x3. And how can we do that? That we will just talk about it. Okay, now I hope my Excel sheet is visible to everyone.
No, ma'am.
No?
Hmm.
No, ma'am.
Okay, I'll just share. Is it visible now?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now the first step, other day we discussed that our very first step will be to tabulate the data. Okay. Now when you want to tabulate the data, you have to consider your the form or what the data collection sheet that we have prepared. Now, say for example, the researcher is working on the awareness about OER and wants to study with some variables. Now, the variables that are I have identified by the researcher, that it is the OER awareness, and compare it on the basis of gender, compare it on the basis of age, compare it on the basis of qualifications, and compare it on the basis of experience. So after we collect the data, we make use of, we tabulate the data. So if I have taken my first respondent, so whatever the marks the person got in the awareness scale, so I've just put that marks. Then the gender, so I'm using M and W, that is the men and women. The age I have already collected in the personal data sheet, so I have written that. The qualification, that is UG, PG, whatever. So I want to just compare the UG and PG, whether if the person is with the UG qualification and the PG qualification, is the awareness differs. And then the number of years of experience. Okay. Now, to proceed, the first thing, that is your master sheet, is very important. So prepare your master sheet very meticulously, cross-check it, and then you proceed further, because further calculation will not take much time. Okay. Only our data should be sorted properly. Now, my first objective is to study the gender difference, right? Now, if I'm using that, so if I'm using that, I will first select the entire data. Okay. Now make sure that you are selecting the entire one. Now, we will go in data and we will sort the data. Now I want to sort it with on the basis of gender because my first objective is that. So I will be sorting it by the column. So I will go gender and I say okay. Okay, now my entire data is shuffled. Now the next step is that to calculate the t-value, I require the mean value, then I require SD and I require N. These are the three values that I need for the calculation. Now I have two groups, right? So I have two groups. So my group number 1 and my group number 2. Now my group number 1 is, say for example, main. Now what I will do is that I will select. Now when your samples are big, that time you have to select maybe the 200 and 300 and 400. Okay. Now select that. Then we go for the calculation of mean. Okay. So we will go in formulas. We will go in more function. We will go in statistics and we will calculate the average. Okay. Now my array A2 to A8. Now I'm getting 19.28, right? Now I have to calculate the SD. So it is coming 4.3. Now for another group, I do the same thing. So it is coming 22.75. Now, what I do, I have just calculated these values. I put these values in the formula, which is very simple. That is m1 minus m2 divided by sigma 1 square by n1 plus sigma 2 square by n2. Now, I put all these values in the formula and I calculate the t value. Okay. Now, I then, whatever the value that I get, that I put it, check it in the table. So against the table, that is a statistical table given for the t-test, I check my value and then I reject the hypothesis or accept the hypothesis, whatever the value I get. Okay. Now, this is very, like a simple t-test that we do. Now, somebody is interested. So now once you finish with the gender, now for the age. Now again for the age, you have more data, or you can check your data. So again, what you can do, you again have to shuffle the data. The moment you shuffle your data on the basis of age, you will again can see how many groups you can get, and then accordingly you proceed further. So then sort the data on the basis of age. Now, so there is no, like a big difference that you are getting. So maybe you just can have, 25 to 30 and 31 to 37. That is the, 21 to 30, that one group, and then above 30 you can make. But if your data is giving you more range of the age group, then you can have the 3 groups or the 4 groups. So likewise you can have. Now, suppose, as I was talking about the factorial design, so two-way analysis of variance. Now, what is two-way analysis of variance? Here, what we have done, we were talking about whether the gender-wise there is difference or no. Or you talk about whether age-wise there is a difference or no. But now suppose you want to make your study more interesting, or you want to, as a researcher, you want to just go deeper into it. So what can you do? So you go for the two-way analysis of variance. It means you want to study the interaction effect of age and experience on OER. So in that case, what we will have is that we will have the people with the low age, the young people with the low experience. In this cell, you will write their marks of OER. You will take their score of OER. Okay. Now, similarly, you have the people who are having low experience, but age-wise they are higher. So you will have the another cell with the high experience and the low age. So if somebody gets into the field very early, and then the high age and the high experience, so who actually entered in the field at the proper time. Now, in all these cells, you will be writing the scores that we have collected on the awareness about OER. Okay. After that, we will calculate the mean and SD, and then how you will get the results. Now here, is it the gender and the experience when they come together will influence OER or no? So that gives you one more insight into your study. So you are parallelly dealing with the two independent variable and you are looking into its effect on your dependent variable. Okay. So likewise, you can have, the variations in that. So you want to study the gender and the experience. So you can do that. You want to study the effect of the gender and the qualification. So you actually can do that. So this is how your two-way analysis of variance will help you to understand the interaction effect of two independent variable on your one dependent variable. So this is something, it's very interesting to do it. Now, sometimes some people, they may want to go for more than two. They may want to go for, like, I don't want to only have the low and high experience. I want low experience, I want the moderate experience, and then I want the high experience. That's your choice. Okay. So as a researcher, these things are very very easy and to do it, and it gives you a the insight, क्योंकि हमारे पास already data रहता है. ऐसा नहीं कि हमारे पास data नहीं रहता. We have enough data with us. However, we need to look into the data and play with the data. So these are some of very interesting findings, that how there is there any connection in the age and the experience, or no, there is no connection of the age and experience. They work very independently. So these things will make a lot of difference, because your underlying assumption is that the younger people probably may know more about the OER, because assumption is not in isolation, of course, because we have been observing that the person who are like 50 plus, they find it difficult to to deal with the technology and all those kind of stuff. So yeah, our assumption also is not in isolation. We do have certain the logic behind it, but this kind of a study, they make you to think about your study in more in depth and a different manner. So that is what you can do when you have this kind of data. The another thing that we use very commonly is our correlational type of study, right? Now these correlational type of studies also are very extensively used, because the simple reason is that the correlational type of studies, they actually help us to understand the association between two variables. So remember, when we calculate the t-test, we were dealing with only one variable. When we proceed further with two-way analysis of variance, we had three variables at a time. So we were dealing with the three variables at a time. Now, when we want to study the relationship between some variables, so in that case, your association actually help you to understand that which are the two factors that are very closely associated, and then as a professional, we can actually enhance certain things. So the coefficient of correlation, as we all know, that it varies from -1 to +1. So when you interpret the t-test, what you interpret is the level of significance, and you interpret which group is higher. So after your calculation of t, you first calculate degrees of freedom, you enter in table, you check your values with the tabulated values, and you take a decision at what level I have to reject the null hypothesis. Now that is not complete. Then you look into the mean value of both the groups. So whether the women is high on the awareness or the men is high on the awareness, that is indicated by my mean values. Okay. Now when we go for the two-way analysis of variance, in two-way analysis of variance, if I get the interaction effect, you automatically get the graph, or graph intersect karta hai. Okay. Now, it means that there is a connection in the experience and the age on the OER. Now those interaction figures will tell you that which are the factors, how the age and their experience has connection, or they do not have connection. If they are connection, the line will intersect. If they are not, so you can get a graph over there. Now the second very widely used is your correlational studies. Correlational studies also, we do have a lot of designs actually for it, but somehow we are using it very limited way. So we just go for the linear, but otherwise you have all your predictive studies, they based on this. Now we have the positive correlation and the negative. Now here we have one group and we have two variables. Now two variables, either they can be positively associated. It means if one increases, the other also increases. If workload increases, the stress level also increases. Okay. Or if one decreases, the other also decreases. So when you are both the variables, they move in one direction. It can be up or it can be down. Then that is your positive relationship. So your variables direction should be in one direction. The negative means if your one variable is goes up and other variable comes down. Okay. The moment age increases, the health condition decreases. Okay. Workload increases, the work efficiency goes down. So two variables, but they are negatively associated. Now, whenever we are interpreting the correlational Pearson's coefficient of correlation and interpreting R, we have to keep things in mind that the level of significance, that is the first step of interpretation. The second is the sign interpretation. Now we see that it ranges from -1 to +1. If your value of relationship is coming more than 1, then your calculations have gone somewhere wrong. Okay. And then you look into the magnitude. Okay. We'll just do it with some variable and then we'll come back. Okay. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now we say that we need to have the two variables when we are dealing with the coefficient of correlation. So now suppose these are the two variables, that is environmental awareness and environmental friendly habits. You also can, if you want to go for the relationship studies with the OER, you can think about some other variable that can, influence or that can be closely associated with the OER. Okay. So say for example, awareness of OER and a person's exposure to the internet. Now we will just take just a limited number and coefficient of correlation. Now it is a correlation. Now from A2 to A22. Now the value that we are getting is 0.635. Okay. Now 0.635, I have to check. Again, there is a table and I cross check with the table. Now 0.63, there is a correlation table, and if we check it, it is found to be significant at 0.01 level. The process is same, only the table differs. So T ka table ke bajaye, now I am looking at the R ka table. So R ke table mein 0.63, what value I am getting, it is higher than the value at 0.01 level. So I say that I reject this hypothesis. The researchers mentions that the hypothesis is rejected at 0.01 level. So there is a significant relationship between the environmental awareness and environmental friendly habits. So still the interpretation is not complete. Now you have to look into this table. Now this table talks about plus or minus. Now our value that we obtained, it is somewhere here, right? 0.63. So I continue with my interpretation and I say it means that the relationship is high in magnitude. Now this indicates, like how strongly they are associated. So if person is environmentally aware about, then his or her environmental friendly habits are better. So if the awareness increases, environmental friendly habits also increases. Okay, so this is for the relationship studies. We will not go into the, the one-tailed and two-tailed test. Okay. So basically, when we talk about the null hypothesis, the possibilities that we consider are this. That we believe in three possibilities because we have two groups. So any two groups if we are considering. So either men are better in awareness than women, or men are less aware than women, or men and women, there is no significant difference in the awareness of OER. So null hypothesis is actually this. Similarly, when you talk about the relationship also, so either the relationship is positive, it means if one increases, the other also increases. Second is one increases, the other decreases. And the third is that there is no relationship between the two variables. Therefore, when you are taking the correlational type of studies, please make sure that you are well read with the literature, you read proper theories, and then you choose your variables. It is very, very important. Otherwise, two sets of data is anyway going to give you some figure, but does not make any sense. If it makes sense, then only you are contributing something to your knowledge field. So whenever you are actually undergoing for correlational type of study, so that care you must take. Okay. Now the non-parametric test, that is very rarely we use it, but yes, if your data is not in interval scale form, so you may go for the sign test, or you may go for the median test, or you also have the chi-square. Now the chi-square is widely used. So first I will just talk about the chi-square test. Okay. Yeah. Now the chi-square test is quite widely used when people, they talk about, the opinion of people, and when you want to compare that and your data is in a frequency form. So if your data is in a frequency form, so then you go for the chi-square test. Now in the chi-square test, the frequency, that is the observed frequency, then you have the expected frequency. Now this expected frequency is calculated on the basis of sample. So if your sample is 60, I assume that yes, there are 20 people who are agreeing on it. There are 20 people who are not agreeing on it. And there are 20 who are indifferent. Okay. So now the chi-square test, where you are having this expected frequency, we just divide. This is the equal distribution technique. Sometimes you will also get the people, they go by the normal probability curve. So they calculate the 25% lower, 50% average, and the 25% high. And accordingly, your frequency over here will get distributed. So 60 का 25% इधर आएगा, 60 का 25 और बचा हुआ इधर आएगा. So that's how also people, they go for it. Now, you were expecting, but after you collect the data, you found that there are only the 13 who are agreeing on this. There are 27 who are not agreeing on it, and there are some people who are indifferent. So you are getting the number over here. Now you just calculate, that is FO minus FE. These are just calculations, and this is the number. As I discussed earlier, your degrees of freedom are calculated differently. Now, again, whatever the figure you are getting, now here it is calculated and now it is, 4.9. Now, I will check this figure again in the chi-square cut table. Okay, my data is in a frequency form, and then on the basis of that, I make the conclusion, and whether the hypothesis is to be rejected or it is to be accepted is decided on the basis of the chi-square table that I'll be using. Okay. Now, very important point I just want to make. We say that we are using the parametric test, t-test, when we want to compare two groups. Now, suppose you have calculated the descriptive analysis and you found that the OER awareness scores and the distribution among women is skewed. Now, if you want to compare the men and women, you will not be in a position to use the t-test. Instead of that, you will have to make use of a Mann-Whitney U-test. So we do have this kind of test. So sometimes there is a question that, suppose now to compare the men and women, I am getting the skewed distribution. But if I am comparing the faculty wise, I'm not getting the skewed distribution. So what to do? So the answer will be, wherever you are getting skewed, please write it down that this particular hypothesis will be tested using the Mann-Whitney test, because out of this 5, this one condition is not fulfilled. The data seems to be skewed, and therefore the researcher is using the Mann-Whitney U-test instead of a t-test. Okay, so one has to be, very honest for reporting the analysis and the interpretation of it. Okay, now sign test generally we do not use, but it is used when people, they go on a ranking. So, or sometimes you want to look into, like, say for example, in teaching we want to study that which condition is favored by the students, whether the contextual or the words that are given separate. So contextual, the one student's number, this is 1 2 3 4 5 6, and the contextual words are preferred, so this is the score, and this is the separate words, when they are given, they are preferred for their vocabulary learning. Now context minus the separate words. So if it is the positive, like here the assumption is that yes, the contextual is preferred, so wherever getting the positive, put the plus sign. Wherever you are getting negative, put the negative sign, and then you calculate like this, and on the basis of this you come to the conclusion, or you draw the inference that yes, the contextual words are preferred by our students if it comes to the vocabulary building. Okay, so these are a non-parametric test, and this is the reason why we do not generally make use of the non-parametric tests. Okay, I think we can go for the discussion now. Bhupendra sir, I think I can stop. I will share this PPT with you.
Yes.
Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
fine? If we have any queries, then you can just share it with the Bhupendra sir. That will come to me.
And participant want ANOVA test also.
Okay, they want ANOVA also.
Yeah.
Now, for the ANOVA, the first thing is that you need to have the 3 groups, 3 or more groups. Now, in that case, Now, suppose you want to compare your OER awareness on the basis of your, say, for example, age. And now what we want to do is that we want to again make the three groups. Now my first group is somewhere 20 to 25. Then my second group may be now here 25 to 30. Then 31 to 35. Third group may be 35 to 40. And then 41 to 40. So suppose I just want to go for the four groups. Now what we have to do is that I'll just take if it is add-on in my this thing, or otherwise there is a Vasar stat. How many of you have used Vasar stat? Have you used Vasar stat? Anyone? Okay. Now I think in my this system, Bhupendra sir, you have the add-on of ANOVA. You remember we are done. I think in my this system I have not. तुमच्याकडे आहे?
एक मिनिट चेक करतो.
नाहीतर मग मी वसार मधला आता सांगून देते, बिकॉज दॅट इज इझी.
ओके ओके.
You can check with that, but Vasar is very easy. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So the Vasar stat, you can compute one-way ANOVA, you can compute regression analysis, all many things you can do. And the best part is that they also give you the description of it. So here you also can go and check out that when can I use the particular test, and the details of it you always can get over here. Otherwise, the another way, I think Bhupendra sir and we also that in your Excel add-on, you just have to in add-on and install, have your ANOVA. Once you have your ANOVA, there will be the array come and you just have to insert the data. You will get the F value. Okay. Now here, yeah. So now if you want to go for, the one-way analysis of variance, you go for it. Here some of the instructions are given if you want to read out. Now you will go for how many samples you have in the analysis. So now suppose you have maybe the 20 or 24. Now how many independent samples you have? So if you want to compare the three groups, then you have the three groups with you. So you will be writing whatever the groups you have. Somebody has 6 groups, then the person will go for the 6 groups. Now here this data entry, that is very important. Now suppose you want to have the comparison of OER on the basis of their age. So the first step that you will be doing, that you will sort the data on the basis of age. Now after you do it, you will select the is still, say for example 25 to 30. Okay, now we have to just copy this data and we have to paste this data. Okay, similarly 25 to 30 ka data we will keep going and we will copy it.
आपण जेवताना अर्धी पोळी खाल्ली त्याने.
Now we will take the 40. Only the thing is that sometimes they keep, updating their sites. So I think from 2 to 26. So it is 25. I think some error at because of my probably this thing. Yeah, some error is coming. Otherwise, you get the F value here. Okay. Now, whatever the F value you
Ma'am, we
get,
cannot able to see the Vasar stat
screen,
screen.
you can't see the screen.
No, we are
Okay. Is it now visible?
yes, ma'am. Now it is
Okay.
visible.
So what we have done is that we enter in a Vasar stat. We click one-way analysis of variance. Now we wanted to compare our OER awareness on the basis of their age. So first we sorted the data on the basis of age. We made sure that we are sorting out by selecting the complete file, and after that we just picked up the data from those, say for example 25 to 30. Now we have pasted here the OER awareness ka score. Similarly here also we pasted for 26 to 30 years people ka OER ka scores, and then we also have done for the next group, that is 31 to 35. Now after that you just go on a calculate and then you get a figure. But as I was saying, there is something that is missed out by me probably, and therefore I'm not getting yours the figures. So I'll just have to check, but otherwise to tell you, you get the F ratio here. Okay. I think I'll just check. I'm not very sure about this because it keeps changing. Yes, we get the variance. Even for us, this data is more than enough. We just put this data in a formula and we calculate F. But here you get the F test, that is, yeah. Here I'm getting the figure, that is F. Okay. So because I'm dealing with the 3 groups, you can go as many groups as you have. If you have more group, then you will go like that. Since we have 3 groups, so we put the data for the 3 groups. And now this is the the explanation of that, because you have the calculation are done on this. Now you get this F value. Now this is your value that is to be compared with your table value of ANOVA. So ANOVA ka table value is given. You will compare your value against that value. And then again, if our value is more than the tabulated, we will reject the null hypothesis at 0.01 level. Or if it is less than 0.01 tabulated and more than 0.05 level, then we will reject our null hypothesis at 0.05 level. Okay. Now, if your F is significant, then you have to further go for the t-test. So suppose you have 3 groups, that is age 20, 21 to 25, 25 to 30, 30 to 35. Now, if your F is found to be significant, then you will further go for the 3 t-test. So 20 to 25 and then 25 to 30, that is one group. Then 25 to 30 and 30 to 35, that is your second group. And then another first and the third. So A and B and C, and A and C. So likewise, you will proceed further. Is it clear? Now, those who are going for the experimental kind of researches, for them the ANCOVA, that is analysis of covariance, because calculation of ANCOVA is a big, it's very tedious job. So the Vasar stat actually gives you that also. So you actually can make use of this available facility. Our job, is to interpret it correctly and then proceed further. Okay. And again, if you can add on the ANOVA in your system, then there also you get this kind of, over there they ask you for array. Now when you go for the array, maybe A1 to A20, then you have, say for example, A21 to A40. So likewise you will put your data there, okay, in those arrays. Pop-up menu में आपको डालना होगा, and then you get your F value there. Okay. Other interpretation remains same.
Madam, this VSR Stats is a free software. How is it, madam?
Yes,
Or what?
it is free. It is free.
Free. Madam, two more questions, madam.
Yeah.
For preference type questions, normally which test can we do? Apply, madam.
For the preferences, you better go for the chi-square.
Chi-square. Okay, madam. Can you give us some good documents through which we can learn this test easily? Can you put it in our group?
The best book, I always call it as a Bible of stat, is a Garrett ka book. I have a soft copy of Garrett. I'll just share with Bansod sir. So just please remind me. I'm sorry for that, but please remind me. So I'll just share this, and because Garrett is really a good book, though it is, the old book. However, if you want also the S.K. Mangal's book we use in the field of education, that also gives you a very, nice information about it.
Okay, madam. Can you put these names in our group, or can you pass on to that Rathod sir? We'll take it from him.
I'll just pass on to the Bhupendra sir, because these are the soft copies available with me. Okay. So maybe I just have a request to Bansod sir to share with you all.
Yeah, in the group I will share.
Yes. So I'll be sharing with you the Garrett's soft copy and this. But those who want to, can also refer the S.K. Mangal ka book also, because in Indian context, that is also good book. Similarly, for the descriptive statistics, if you really want to understand that how it is to be interpreted and all, though it is given for the classroom setup, but very clear and very, very smooth kind of understanding is given in the book by W.N. Dandekar, where the W.N. Dandekar talks about the evaluation. So you will get to know about lot of things over there. Similarly, the Grundlund's book on the evaluation, educational evaluation, is also good for the descriptive statistics understanding. Okay, Garrett is like a Bible, as I said.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Also, madam, can we contact you over mail if we have any doubts?
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Hello, ma'am.
Only make, yeah.
First of all, your session was amazing. Ma'am, I
Thank you,
have
sir.
two doubts.
Yeah.
Yeah. One is it's related to my PhD thesis. So, ma'am, I'm just worried about my sample size. My topic is related to income tax assessees, which are in Mumbai. So, is it more? Should I keep it more than 500?
Sir, can you please repeat your topic, please?
My topic is related to income tax payers.
Okay, income tax payers. Oh.
Yeah. And which is related to Mumbai, just restricted to the Mumbai, that is a geographical area.
Okay. Okay. Now are you taking the income tax payer? It means are you dealing with some slab, because the income tax payers are so many, right?
Yeah, definitely those who are paying the taxes.
Yeah, but then say for example, like there is a bracket, like the annual income, the person's annual. So are you you must have delimited your study.
Okay.
You must have some delimitation of your study. Like, see, the Shah Rukh Khan also pays the income tax, and we also pay the income tax, right?
Correct.
So,
So I have as such, I have not delimited my study. I
mm-hmm.
have taken whole, but I have delimited to the geographical area. I
Okay.
have restricted myself to the Mumbai region.
Okay. And what are your objectives?
Basically, impacts of different new additions which are coming into income tax act. The measuring the impact and the simplification.
Okay. So you want to look into how are they perceiving the new things that are coming in? Is it that?
Yes, they are adding many simplification measures.
Yeah.
Okay.
So whatever the
I just wanted to measure that. Is this beneficial to the taxpayers? The tax will increase because of that. That is the main
Okay.
objective.
Okay. So now beneficial will be in terms of their monetary this thing, right?
Correct. Correct.
Correct. So
Depends
how are
on
you
the
going to
gross
collect the data? How are you going to collect the data?
through random sampling, through Google Forms.
Okay. But your scale will be the questionnaire.
Yeah, through questionnaire. Correct, ma'am.
Correct. And you are not going to give the numbers to those answers. How are you going to deal with that
Now, up
scoring?
until now, I have not. Up until now, my study is in very initial stage.
Yeah, correct.
So I have not come across till that stage.
Okay. So you haven't figured it out, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, suppose you want to go for the statistics or something. So you maybe,
Yeah.
you can list out the beneficials, like you can visualize as a researcher, that simplification will benefit the taxpayer this way. So you may come up with the list, right?
Correct. Yeah. I have
Correct.
that list.
Now, suppose you come to me and I marked only on, on one beneficial. So I'm getting only one mark. Suppose Bhupendra sir marked for the 5 beneficial that he's benefited 5 ways. So the 5 marks. Jyoti
Okay.
madam say 7. So now that is your
Okay.
quantification. Okay, that's your quantification.
Correct.
Now further, please
Okay.
think about, are you going to compare this beneficials on the basis of whether they are government set people, or they are working in the private field, or they are the businessman? Because
Okay.
your
Okay.
benefit, the way we look at it, say for example, we majority of us are the government people, right?
Correct.
So our understanding of that beneficial are definitely different from the business person.
Okay.
Correct? Will
Yeah,
that happen?
absolutely. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
because it has some base, it has not to think like that, because the
Yeah.
business person will look into those beneficiaries benefits
So
from
this
the
is
other
complicated.
angle. Unka point of view will be different from ours. So if you want to
Correct.
compare and statistically, then you will have to go like that.
Okay.
You got it?
But ma'am, the thing is, what will be the expected sample size? I have observed different statisticians. They
Huh.
said approximately more than 500.
Yes. Because since you are talking about Mumbai, so population is huge. And again, if if you are thinking कि okay, मेरे को businessman देखना है, government वाला देखना है, private वाला देखना है, so again you will have to have the representative sample.
Okay, represent. Okay, got it, ma'am.
Yeah, your sample has to be representative. So if your population is large, like I'm sure that you will get majority of the government people. So then your samples of government people will be more as compared to your business
Normal
people,
individual.
right?
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yes.
Hello, ma'am. Guna Chandra, they want to know how to decide dependable and independable variable.
Sir, I have one more
Okay.
question. Let me repeat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it, ma'am.
Yes.
And another question, ma'am, when you're solving the standard deviation, at that time, SDVC and SDVS, ऐसे दो आया था. So
Yeah.
what was that, the another one?
Yeah, so SDBS is for standard deviation of sample and SDB is the standard deviation of population. So what we say that when you are talking about the descriptive analysis, we always calculate on the sample, but we describe it for the population.
Acha. Thank
Okay.
you. Okay. Got
Yeah.
it, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, welcome.
Okay. Ma'am,
Hmm.
dependent variable and independent variable. How to
Okay.
decide? That
Okay.
makes
Now, when you say the dependent and independent, in one study, a variable can be independent and in another study, it can be dependent. As a researcher, you make a choice. Say, for example, if I'm talking about the effect of stress on the student's achievement, then my student's achievement is the dependent. जो बदली होता है वो डिपेंडेंट, द वेरिएबल दैट मॉडिफाइज और चेंज, दैट इज द डिपेंडेंट वेरिएबल, और जिसकी वजह से होता है दैट इज द इंडिपेंडेंट वेरिएबल. सो द स्ट्रेस विल, ऐसा नहीं होगा कि स्ट्रेस विल ऑलवेज अ डिपेंडेंट वेरिएबल. नो, it can be in some studies the independent variable also. Is it clear? You got my point?
Yes, मेघना आहे ना ग्रुपला?
आहे.
Yes.
Okay, so as a researcher, you think about it, ki whether what is changing. And also, thank you very much for this question. Many a times there are many people who have this understanding that in correlation studies also we have the dependent and independent variable. Please, in correlational studies, we talk about the association between two variables. So we cannot be very sure who depends on whom. Okay. So relationship studies rahega, तो please don't talk about dependent and independent. You just talk about the variables of the study.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other question?
Madam, I'm Chaitanya. I'm from Andhra Pradesh.
Yeah.
It was a very pleasant and very meaningful session that I attended recent times.
Thank you, sir.
Very educative and like very thought provoking and making us to realize the basics of stats. And it also created an impact like to know more about the stats. Since like we are in research, we further want to know about all these things, just not bothering about the tests and all those things, but statistics are really like a fun and it's also like a thought like a very like
it's
useful
a vast field. Yes, it's a very vast field. It's
Thank you so
only
much for
yeah, it requires your thinking as a researcher. So data is with you. You just have to play with the data. The moment you start, you start thinking about it. Ki, okay, this is also, can it be? The moment you keep asking yourself questions, automatically you are motivated to find out the answers. Thank you, sir.
Yes, madam. Madam, one more thing, madam. My sister, like, she lives in Bombay. I live in Vijayawada, Andhra Pradesh, and I have shared this link last session also. And she was like following, and she said like it is very useful session, and I have to share these links to many of our friends, colleagues. So she is a doctorate in management.
Okay.
And she shared with many of her friends, and like we are very happy. We are very happy for this. Like your tone and the presentation, and your tone never changed a bit. In starting from the ending, the tone never changed, and we learn more how to present also, like how to present ourselves when there is a session, and these things also I come to learn. We come to learn. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful words. But is it that my tone has not changed? So was it too monotonous? I'm just asking the feedback as a teacher.
It means very pleasant. It's not like even if somebody asking you irrelevancy or something going that way or this way, like we distract, our tone will change. Like if some technical issue is there, like our tone changes, but there is nothing like that. It was very pure, clean, and there is no disturbance. Like you got a noise disturbance in a wave right now, madam. Yeah. But there is nothing like that. It is a straight line. Very happy, very pleasing tone. Thank you so much.
Okay. No, because in our teacher education, we say that there has to be a voice modulation. So I was just worried the voice.
No. Exactly. My sister also. She was teaching for management for 10 years. She is in
great.
that field and she has a great appreciation for you. She lives in Bombay,
Thank you.
and I wish like we meet you one day,
Yeah, we
someday.
can meet. Yes, surely,
Thank
surely.
you so much, madam. Thank you so
Thank
Can
much.
you.
you, sorry to disturb you, can you start your video, please?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, even I agree with right now the Chaitanya said. When basically the commerce and management research scholars think about statistics, they're like, yo, we don't have to do that. But after watching your lecture, it is so informative, ma'am. We got an interest in statistics, ma'am. And
See,
even and ma'am, another thing, I'm from Raheja College, so I really wanna meet you, ma'am. You'll be available in which campus? SNDT Churchgate or Santa
yes,
Cruz?
sometimes I'm in Churchgate, sometimes I'm in Juhu. So you are at Juhu, Santa Cruz.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So I had been to your college for some session. I don't remember now, but before COVID
We'll
it
call
was.
you again, ma'am.
Yeah, I was there.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, any other question?
Ma'am,
Yeah.
I'm a student of MLIC second year from
Mhm.
SHPT School of Library Science. I would like to also thank Elip for organizing such an amazing and wonderful workshop on statistical technique. Actually, it is very useful for library science student because now in fourth sem we all have to
Yeah.
practice these techniques
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
our
yeah.
research and dissertation. The workshop is especially more or less related to my research because my research
Oh.
are inclined to my research is inclined to quantitative research. Less than 30 responses I have collected. So I
Mhm.
learned many things from your workshop. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
And once again, I thank Elip for such a wonderful and useful workshop organized. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you.
Uh,
हाँ
hello,
Any
madam.
Ha.
Hello, I am
Yes,
Meghna
ma'am.
Chandratre from
Mhm.
Nashik. I am
Please
working as a
on your
lab.
video first.
Okay. I am from Nashik.
Hello, ma'am.
I want to give thanks to all and big thank you to Pradna madam.
Thank
Actually,
you,
this
ma'am.
is very hard subject, and you covered almost everything from this field. As a beginner in the research, we both myself and my Mr. Chandratre sir both attended 2 days this webinar, and we really needed this. Uh, you covered almost everything, our doubts, all types of tests, what should we use, and you guided almost how to plan questionnaire, research tool techniques, and even this Vasar software that you have pointed out. We will really use this, and we will needed more on this. I want to thanks to ALIP, that is Association of Library and Information Professionals, for organizing this informative and most needed hot topic for researchers. I even want to thanks to you for such a nice means we are like a slow learner for the statistics.
I'm
Um,
also slow learner. See, the first thing is that what happens, generally what happens, even if you are not good in maths, it doesn't make difference because statistics is a applied part of it and its interpretation and your deep involvement in your research actually gives birth to new questions in your own researches. So what we actually need is to think about continuously be with our topic. That's the only key of your research. Thank you,
we
ma'am.
learn that thing, that is we have to have a patience and we have to read all the data so we can get what to do with this data.
Yeah.
And you pointed out you very nicely what should
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah, thank you, madam. So that leads to another point where data in India is available enormously. However, this data is not being interpreted by various ways. So you go to for the health services, you have so much of a data available. So data is available with us, but we are not understanding the data with the different perspectives. So if we can do that, we can contribute a lot rather than collecting the primary data, whatever data we have. If you try to look into that data, we come out with a lot of meaningful understanding of it.
Yes, thank you so much. And I also want to thanks Dr. Bansod sir, Dr. Ajay Kamble sir, Santosh Patil sir, and Navgare sir for arranging such a wonderful. Even we need more on this. If it is possible, we can learn at least one test each day.
Yeah, that can be done.
Yes, madam, we need more tests and we can learn more from you.
Thank you so
From
much.
Pradnya ma'am only.
Yes, from Pratna madam only.
Thank you for your gesture.
Now over to you, Dilip Patil sir.
थँक्यू सर, थँक्यू. सर्वांना नमस्कार. मित्रांनो, महाराष्ट्रातील विविध क्षेत्रामध्ये संशोधन करणाऱ्या संशोधकाकडून आणि त्यांना मार्गदर्शन करणाऱ्या गाईड्सकडून सोशल मीडियाच्या माध्यमातून आम्हाला अनेक प्रकारच्या सूचना प्राप्त होत होत्या की संशोधन क्षेत्रामध्ये स्टॅटिस्टिकल ज्या टेक्निक्स आहेत त्याच्यावर एखादं वर्कशॉप किंवा एखादी कॉन्फरन्स किंवा एखाद्या सेमिनारचं आयोजन करावं, तशी त्यांची मागणी होती. आणि ती मागणी पूर्ण करण्याच्या दृष्टिकोनातून आम्ही विचार विनिमय करून अलिपच्या माध्यमातून या 2 दिवसीय 2 सत्रामध्ये एक नॅशनल लेवलच्या वर्कशॉपचं आयोजन केलेलं होतं. आणि या 2 दिवसाच्या 2 सत्रासाठी मार्गदर्शक म्हणून आम्ही SNDT वुमेन्स युनिव्हर्सिटीच्या एज्युकेशन डिपार्टमेंटच्या विभाग प्रमुख प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर प्रज्ञा वाकपंजे मॅडम यांच्यासोबत संपर्क साधला. आम्ही त्यांना रिक्वेस्ट केली आणि आमच्या रिक्वेस्टचा त्यांनी रिस्पेक्ट करून 2 दिवसाच्या 2ही सत्रामध्ये मार्गदर्शन करण्याची संमती त्यांनी दिली. आणि त्यांनी एक्सप्लोरिंग स्टॅटिस्टिकल टेक्निक्स इन रिसर्च या विषयावर अतिशय चांगल्या प्रकारे मार्गदर्शन केले. अतिशय उपयुक्त अशा स्वरूपाची इन्फॉर्मेशन त्यांनी आम्हाला सर्वांना दिली. त्याबद्दल असोसिएशन ऑफ लायब्ररी अँड इन्फॉर्मेशन सायन्स प्रोफेशनल्स यांच्या वतीने मी आदरणीय मॅडमचे मनपूर्वक आभार मानतो. या 2 दिवसाच्या नॅशनल लेवलच्या वर्कशॉपसाठी देशभरातील विविध स्टेटमधून अनेक संशोधक, अनेक गाईड्स सहभागी झाले. त्यांचे सुद्धा मी मनपूर्वक आभार मानतो. ही नॅशनल लेवलची कार्यशाळा यशस्वी करण्यासाठी आमच्या अलिपचे सर्व पदाधिकारी आणि मेंबर्स यांनी सतत ऑनलाईन मीटिंग्स घेऊन अतिशय छोट्या छोट्या गोष्टीवर चर्चा करून ही कॉन्फरन्स हे वर्कशॉप यशस्वी कसं होईल यासाठी अतोनात मेहनत घेतली आणि ही कार्यशाळा यशस्वी करून दाखवली. त्याबद्दल आमच्या असोसिएशनचे सर्व पदाधिकारी आणि मेंबर्स यांचे सुद्धा मी अतिशय मनपूर्वक आभार मानतो. आणि अतिशय चांगला इंटरेस्टिंग या 2 दिवसाच्या सत्रामध्ये जो टॉपिक झाला इंटरॅक्शन क्वेश्चन आन्सरचा, ह्या क्वेश्चन आन्सरच्या सेशनमध्ये अतिशय चांगले चांगले प्रश्न विचारले गेले विविध संशोधकांकडून आणि अतिशय प्रभावीपणे त्यांचं समाधान आमच्या मॅडमनी केलं. त्याबद्दल या सेशनमध्ये सहभागी होणाऱ्या सर्व प्रश्न विचारणाऱ्या सर्व संशोधकाचे मी विशेष आभार मानतो. आणि या आपल्या वर्कशॉपमध्ये जे सहभागी पार्टिसिपेट देशभरातून झालेले आहेत त्यांना एक आवाहन करतो की ज्यांनी अजूनही या असोसिएशनची मेंबरशिप घेतली नसेल त्यांनी या माध्यमातून मेंबरशिप घ्यावी, जेणेकरून अशा विविध ऍक्टिव्हिटी घेण्याला आम्हाला सुद्धा प्रोत्साहन मिळत जाईल. आणि संशोधकाची आणि अभ्यासकाची जी म्हणजे त्यांची जी अपेक्षा आहे आमच्याकडून या क्षेत्रामध्ये कार्य करण्याची, तर ती अपेक्षा आम्ही त्यांची या माध्यमातून वेळोवेळी पूर्ण करत जाऊ. थँक्यू व्हेरी मच टू ऑल पार्टिसिपंट. आणि आमच्या असोसिएशनचे अध्यक्ष यांना काही सूचना द्यायच्या आहेत, तर त्या सूचना ते देणारच आहेत. परंतु तत्पूर्वी एक आभार प्रदर्शन म्हणून आणि एक माननीय अध्यक्षांची जर परवानगी असेल तर ह्या अतिशय फ्रुटफुट अशा झालेल्या 2 दिवसाच्या दोनही सत्राचं हे नॅशनल लेवलचं वर्कशॉप या ठिकाणी मी, जर त्यांची परवानगी असेल तर मी त्या समाप्तीची घोषणा करतो. आणि परत काही त्यांना सूचना द्यायच्या असतील आमच्या माननीय अध्यक्षांना तर मी तशी त्यांना देण्याची विनंती करतो. थँक्यू सर.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll just have few words that thank you, sir. So the president of ELIP and all the executive members of ELIP, I know that organizing such kind of program is not a easy job. It takes lot of efforts from each one of you, and you could do it so successfully. So I'm very, very thankful for giving me this opportunity. And if any nitty gritties or any, so kindly excuse me for that. But I tried to give my best. That is what other day I was discussing with Bhupendra sir. So anyway, if any feedback is there for my improvement, please try to like convey it to me. So it's a learning together. So I'm sure that you will keep continuing your efforts to develop the professionals like this, and I'm extremely happy to be a part of this. Thank you. So may I leave the meeting now?
Yeah, thank you, Brenda ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
And thank you, Dilip sir. Participants, your feedback link is available in the group also, and in the chat box also. You can fill up the feedback forms. After that, you'll get the certificates. Again, thank you everyone for joining here and giving your time. Hopefully, we are going to organize more programs like this in future also. So for that purpose, we will end this session with a new beginning that we are going to organize more such programs for you people. So please join, please support us at all the moments that are coming in future, and thank you everyone. So I'm going to